Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Monopoly. My name is Kerwin.
And this is Kenneth Donis.
This is Jeffrey.
And we are the Donis brothers, and we are here today. It's still Saturday.
Yeah.
Awesome
Same day.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Man, I feel
Good.
great.
Yeah, we just had a mastermind outside, and we thought, why not bring this inside?
And keep talking about it.
Keep talking. And so, obviously, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we're brothers, and a lot of times people, I think so. We don't know.
That's what Mom
Jeff
says,
and I,
at least.
chill. No, so a lot of times people ask us, what is it like to work with brothers? And that's such a good question. And there are other sibling teams that we've met in this business, though they're rare. And also, we've just met family teams. So there's this misconception or this common thought that you shouldn't mix family and business, or like romance or business, or friends with business. And so I thought that would be a fascinating topic to tackle today. And obviously, since we're brothers and we started our business, people always ask us, like, what is it like to work with your brothers? So why did we decide to work together? Let's just provide context there.
Yeah, we just started working. Well, we all started at the same time, but I think we were united with having similar upbringing, values, and a why.
Yeah, and our why is to retire our mom. And I think that was the answer to the question why we started working together, right? Is because we had the same goal, and in general, we want certain same life goals as well.
Yeah, and who else?
Exactly.
At the beginning, I mean, obviously we all had our own friends, but who else is willing to just take that dive?
I mean, I did start to work with my friend, or still one of our best friends. I tried to start a few companies and businesses with him, and it's not the same exact thing as
What's
with
the difference?
family, because there's from my short experience, and obviously we didn't ever make any money, but we had different values and goals, long-term visions, and it's so hard, especially when you don't come from the same exact background. Obviously, most people don't, they're going to work with, but since we did, we understand that we didn't come up with a lot of money, therefore that's something that we obviously want to change. And then we start to have that same burning desire because we have the same why. And when you can unite and have that kind of passion with other people, and also, we're all brothers. So it's almost like you have very similar, you come from the same cloth.
Yes.
Blood.
So you have the same values. I think you have the same work ethic. We also have the same mission. And I think that's important. It's like the thread that ties you together. And it's also, you guys can always kind of touch back on that. It's that's almost the blood of it. It keeps it going, and it's also something to reflect back on when you're not sure. You can kind of ask yourself, does it still align with our mission?
Yeah. And we grew up together, obviously, because we're brothers. So
we know how to
we're familiar with each other, kind of thing,
Yeah, and it's kind of like working with friends, and it's the same thing for me because we were obviously close. So
but that's
they
the
do kind of have to work with friends, though.
Yeah, they do. I think one thing, we'll talk about the benefits. I want to talk about that, but before we were in college, we each had our own respective colleges, so about an hour apart from each other, maybe two, and we were close, but not as close as the business. And so I would say we had our own opportunity to kind of get to know who we were individually for a few months before COVID sent us home from college. And then we really focused on the business. But I would say the businesses were really united us and brought us together and made us really close, which is weird because, something that's business and it's very practical and, corporate structure, but that's what ended up making us even stronger bond of brothers. Now, what are some of the benefits that you guys have seen by working with brothers? And you touched on how that is different from working with a friend. So if you want to emphasize and kind of.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know, maybe some friends you can say it's unconditional love, but you can't really stop being family with someone. You can, friends come and go, family, they don't come and go. So unless they
unfortunately.
Die. So,
no, I'm just saying.
But that's really the only opposite. The only way we get out of that is death. And with friends, you can say that, but friends come and go truly, unfortunately.
And there's a lot of divorces that prove marriage.
Yeah, exactly. So but blood is something that you will obviously you can never get out of that. So that's one thing.
Till death do us part.
Yeah. And also, I
would say we understand each other really well, like you said, because we know where we come from, we know the way we think, and
same sense of humor as well. I think that's crucial. And Colonel was talking about
same values. I think one of our core values we've identified is humor.
Yeah. If you're not having fun with whatever you're doing, then why are you doing it?
We laugh 20 times a day.
All the time.
And sometimes it's not even really okay, it's funny because we're just funny, but it's something that could easily we're either in a really bad situation and we make a funny situation.
Just like
look
the way you sometimes you just get a look and you start laughing. And our mom, sometimes we'll have dinner with her, she'll get mad because we laugh too much.
Yeah.
But it's just like when you're having fun and you can have so much sense of humor. And we grew up together, so we developed that obviously since being kids. And also we can say things to each other without having hard feelings.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they won't. Even if we do get in a fight, it's not like we can stop being brothers. Therefore, we get over it very fast. We learned that from a young age, and we still never lost that.
I would also say something that, so Jeff and I used to, nothing like abusive or anything, but we used to fight a lot, and it used to get physical sometimes. And we just decided that was not going to work, because like we're going to just hurt each other physically, and that wasn't a good option. So even before the business, before we left for college, I think we were in middle school or high school, we decided from now on, we have a rule where we don't hit each other. We have to talk about it. And over time, this is something that just came to mind. We really worked on our communication skills, which I think is unique for a lot of people, especially early. We worked on our communication skills because we didn't want to run away. You can't run. There's not a lot of places to run in a house, of course you can get your corner, but you have to resolve the conflict. So you're going to fight with people, especially if you spend all day with them. And so those early problem solving skills and communication skills that we started to really refine and develop in our youth have really translated well into our business. Do you agree?
Yeah, and
I agree.
Thankfully, we spent a lot of time together growing up. And initially, Kenneth and me grew up very close. Kerwin was closer to our sister, and we played a lot of soccer together, so we were always hanging out. And then Kerwin and me went to high school and middle school together, and I remember going, I was so scared, but I always had Kerwin in high school and middle school, so we grew a lot closer throughout that time period as well. And then college came, and that's when we took the 1 year off, but then immediately it was business. So we were able to learn more about each other, and I think that was a big thing that maybe we don't always talk about, is what points in our life we actually got close, because a lot of siblings aren't close, and that's why they can't work together. And also another thing, we have a fourth sibling, so why are we not working with them? That's a good question.
I mean, I would just say different goals in life.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And so to touch on that, and also something you said, I mean, we've really come to understand you are the sum of the five people you really hang out with, and we literally spend all day together, and we all want the same thing, so it's like we all want the same thing. We all know where we're going to go, why we want to get there, and everything, right? So that is really important to what you said. But to what you said, we can literally, like, if you're not doing something right, or if you're not doing something right, it's not like it's like an unsaid thing, right? Like, we know you're not trying to hurt the other person or belittle the person or anything like that. It's just, you want the best for me, and you want, like, we all want the best for each other, right? Because we need to be the absolute best version of ourselves, so that we can work in a unit and get to where we're trying to go. Because where we're trying to go, obviously it's going to take a lot of grit, and so it's never offensive, and we kind of understand that. But when you're working with potentially a friend or someone you're in a relationship with, that might be different, because they might not necessarily understand that. I think
and they may mistake what you're saying. They may not know that it's coming from a place of love. But if you're literally brothers, and you can question it, but I don't think I ever question it. I don't think they do either. So they know it's coming from a place of love.
I'll say two things. One, you mentioned our sister. We love our sister, and and of course, I think it's just a matter of we have different interests. She's not interested in real estate, and that's fine.
That's a good question, because a lot of people are like, why? They always say, I wish I could work with my siblings.
And I want to touch on that though. I think we identified that we were already friends before. Just because you're your siblings doesn't mean you get along. It doesn't mean you're friends. It doesn't mean you have that good relationship. We already had a good relationship, so that's the foundation. When people ask me, well, how does it work? I say, well, we actually liked each other, and we got along before we started business.
That's a good point.
Because a lot of people just aren't close with their siblings, and they don't hang out with their siblings. So yeah, probably wouldn't make sense.
And to even touch on that, I mean, before we even had made any money or like really started, like we were kind of got into real estate, didn't really know what the next steps were. I had told my mom, like, we were going into business together, and her answer was, you guys better not end up fighting over money and things like that. And like, it didn't even cross my mind for 1 second that was something that we were going to do. I guess just because we kind of know, we all grew up together. We all knew like the struggles that we potentially had coming up. So it's like, it never really even crossed my mind that was something like, we had like a certain,
that's another thing.
It could be. I mean, you guys could take all the money and run away to another country for all sakes, but I don't think that would happen.
Yeah. One thing that we all have is like an unquestionable amount of trust, which we never talk about because it's so like unspoken, obvious. It's so like, it's just like a foundation thing that was set a long time ago. and it's trust. And like if you were to go to like some place where you had to take 2 people, like who else would you choose? Like if you had to go in like on like a long adventure, like ride or die. It's like, you know, this person's willing to die for me and also themselves. And at the end of the day, we're like willing to do things for each other. That I don't know, literally who else would do that for you?
Yeah.
You know, like that's the kind of thing that's who else would you want to go into business with? Because in business is that kind of quest and that kind of adventure and
journey.
It can be a good thing, but it's also very challenging. And who better to do that with than people you love, trust, have similar goals, values, like-minded. And also one thing that we've developed and I think we've grown into is each of us are trying to become the best versions of ourselves. We hold ourselves to a high standard just on an individual level. When we come together, we only push ourselves. And it's in our age, in reality, it's very difficult to find people that are as committed to their own development that I personally try to push myself. And I know you guys do it because I live with you guys. So you guys do the exact same thing. So I think that is almost, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but it's like, I mean, you can go out
dime a dozen.
Where do you find, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not, it sounds egotistical, but like reality is it's hard to find people like that. 100%. So that's why I am grateful, but at the end of the day, that's why we work together, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because
and work well together. I was going to say, on the more practical side of things, we grew up together, so we know we can get along and live with each other as roommates. And I think there's a lot of value with living with, like, since we live together, we're able to keep each other accountable, not only in our business, but also like you know, we work at home, so the office is home, so that makes sense. But also with the habits that we do, we keep each other accountable and continue to progress and push each other to continue to pursue excellence and just be the best version of ourselves. Yes. And it helps when you have that in-house. Does that make sense? Because
it's easy to, especially if there's not, I mean, I'm very like, I guess not a victim, but I am, what is the word?
More susceptible?
No, not more susceptible. I'm a culprit of this, I guess you could say. Okay. I mean, it's very easy to not do the things that we do every day, right? And honestly, like if you guys weren't around, it'd be a lot easier to not do those things. You know what I'm saying?
Give in to temptations as well, or is that like the
temptations? Just not doing what I know we should, like reading, meditating, all those things, right? It would be easier now if I lived alone, and I'm sure it'd be easier for you guys. Although you guys are very obviously, like, we're all disciplined, obviously, to
self-driven, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you know, when you have someone, or if you see someone else doing it, you're like, dang. Like they're doing it, like dang, like I'm not gonna just out kind of thing, you know.
Another thing I just realized is like it's just fun.
Yeah.
Do it with people that you enjoy spending time with. Like everyone said, we're friends, and well, a lot of the times when we go to these events and things like that, a lot of people not just we don't have a lot in common with them, but also it's just fun to have other young, driven, hungry people that like to also have a good time, things like that. And who better to do that with than people that you already know? I don't know. It's just like
in your blood.
There's a beauty to it, to building something with people that you know are never going anywhere. You know, like we're family. But also, Winnie the Pooh said, "It's not the journey. It's not really the journey or the destination. It's the people you're on the journey with." And I think that's like, it's really cool because no matter what we're doing and no matter how bad it gets or how good it gets, like it's like we're sharing that experience together.
Yeah.
You know, that's the real, that's like the real value of it.
Yeah. And I want to touch on that because I mean, we've been in some low spots throughout life in our business, and we've been in some really awesome spots, going on vacation and things like that. And it's always like so fun, even in the low spots, because like we always make a joke of it, like whether we're not, not feeling as, whatever it is. Right. Yeah. And we always find a way to just make it feel all right,
Yeah, one thing I can also rely on you guys for is to not only keep me accountable, but it's to tell me the truth, even if it's the ugly truth, and to be real. And I think that's literally no one is real nowadays. But with you specifically on things that you can't even you don't notice, they'll say things. And I mean, I try to do that for you guys too, but I like to have that because like I said, we're all on this journey together and it will only get there. It'll only improve the results if we're helping each other. Yeah. And who better to kind of be a mirror than someone that you trust? Because if they say something and you can either be offended, and a lot of times Kerwin gets offended. I'm just kidding. But anyways, it's like you're trying to really, they're being honest and they're coming from a place of love. Yeah. And there's so much to gain from having that resource. It is a resource, having someone that can critique you, whether you're falling off track, whether there's a thing okay, you probably should do this. And Kerwin will ask me questions about the business, hey, how does this look? And he never takes it, because he could easily get offended because that's his work and I'm going and critiquing it. or your books. Like you'll go in, and I'll be honest with you, because I can say it without you thinking that I'm going to try to hurt your feelings, but I'm gonna be really blunt and honest. I don't think there's a lot of people you can do that with. Now,
No.
on the back end of that, it's also just in life, like where I might be like a mean person to someone, and none of my friends would tell me that, but my brothers would be like, hey, you were kind of a douche back there. Like maybe you shouldn't do that. Or like maybe the way that you said that, maybe you could have differently because of this. And everyone have talks about it. And first and foremost, I don't know if there's many people you can have those kind of conversations with.
Yeah.
But second, to do that with someone that you know is like a reliable resource, I think that's
I agree with that. And I would also say, kind of to touch on what you were talking about, it's a benefit to having a business partner who knows you so well in terms of family, because they know you so well that they're able to maybe see your blind spots and that you're not able to see, and they're willing to share those blind spots with you. And if your goal, and like we all are kind of mutually interested in pursuing the best version of ourselves, then that's that your goal is to become the best version of yourself. And a lot of times you're not even aware of like your weaknesses, but if like I'm more, maybe I can tell, oh, that's something I know you'd want me to tell you, because I'm aware of it, and that's an area of growth and potential for you to improve.
Yeah. And also, I think we're all different. No, we have a lot of similarities, but we all have our own key differences. And as a team, we kind of mold together. And obviously, like we might all be more on the side of a visionary, but I do think that we like have our specific strengths that as a unit helps us. And I don't know if like we kind of as a whole, we're stronger than just individually. Yeah. And I think we're each good at our own things. We each suck at our own things as well. But together, it's like we've kind of learned our place on the team.
And now that you mentioned it, go ahead and let's talk about what those roles are. So you go first.
So in our business, just capital raising, so talking to people, and then also investor relations.
Okay.
Oh,
go ahead, Kenny.
I thought that's what you meant.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I'm just acquisitions, just talking to brokers and apartment. Yeah, just talking
Asset
apartment underwriting, apartment complexes and touring them, which is like literally my favorite part. And then asset management, just kind of getting the vision in which I underwrote the property to, because when I see a property, I'm like, okay, this is what we can do to it. We can improve it in this way. And then on the back end, you still have to implement that. You still have to, one, at the front end, you have to make sure everyone agrees with your visualization as to what you see it can look like or work like or whatever, right? But then you have to actually put that work into make that a reality.
Yeah.
So
I would say underwriting is an art, and also asset management is kind of an art too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Very fun.
What do you do, Kerwin?
I'm in charge of the marketing, social media, podcast, and any content we create. That pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah.
And so now this is another interesting question, and this isn't like that's like those are our titles, but you got me thinking because you said in the business. What else would that refer to? What are our roles in our brotherhood, and how does that kind of how does that really complement the business and help us in the business? But it's more of a internal, like within our own relationship as brothers. Do you guys understand my question?
A little bit. I'll take it to where I think, and you can guide me if I'm wrong. But there's like certain things like you cooking.
Well, no, okay, that's practical. I'm talking about in terms of your too much information. You guys wash the dishes? No, that's not the point. The point I'm talking about. I'll start. Maybe.
Well, I think I was going to say it's like a well-oiled machine.
I would say I'll start, and I think it's easier when we each kind of address what are the other person's. And this is kind of touching on what your superpower is. So I'll start with Jeffrey. Jeffrey, his role in our brotherhood is the person who is always progressing. I would say, okay, he's the one that's always pushing the line and pushing our growth, and the best at pursuing excellence, the most, like always keeping everyone else accountable.
Yes.
I would say you embody you're like almost the leader. I would say the most consistent leader all the time with your habits and everything else. You're the one that's always pushing us, and that helps us in our business because you're also the one that's going to be, I think this is something I read in the Bible, but it's also some of the sermons I listened to. They talked about how the best version of a leader is the person that's going to be also the one like on the battlefield. The leader isn't the one that's sitting in the castle. He's actually the one on the field. When we're looking for someone to represent us, then you're that representative. You're the one that's kind of like the face of it. You're the one that's out there. You're investor relations. So you're in front of our investors. And also in general, like I said, you're always pushing the needle, keeping us accountable with our habits and things like that. So I think that's kind of like your role.
Yeah. I would just say me. I mean, honestly,
Jeffrey, what would you say Kenny is this?
Yeah. Like we talked offline. I think it's a lot of different things, but mainly, and we can go back to when we started business. It was just coming up with the ideas. Also being the first one to take that step into it, which Kerwin always like to say, he's fearless. I think Kerwin and me are the brakes and you're like the gas, which I think is obviously important.
Yeah.
And also a lot of times on multiple occasions, like when deals that we're working on recently, I get scared, Kerwin gets scared. We think this is a bad idea. Kenneth says, F it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
You're the
literally,
visionary.
yeah, literally.
You're the ultimate visionary. I think you have the ideas and you drive the vision forward. And you also, that's a bravery, which is
That's what I'm
really
saying.
important.
I mean, think about it. Think about how many times we had that kind of leap of faith moment and I wouldn't have taken it by myself.
Yeah.
I know we wouldn't have taken it, but then you come in and you push it. And then I'm like logically thinking it through. It does not make sense. And then he's like, okay, let's just figure it out. Yeah. I'm like, that's dumb. And he's like, who cares? And then
It's
we
about
always
taking those entrepreneurial
But we do
leaps.
take those
That's
leaps.
important.
Yeah. And it's good to have that person pushing the frontier.
Yeah.
So I think we've done that so many times. It's so obvious. That's why Kerwin always says it.
No, yeah,
So-
yeah, and I appreciate that. But and I would say honestly, and it kind of does sound a little crazy, you know, to the people speaking. And I guess it is. I think the thing about it is like I don't necessarily think about the downsides because I honestly like whenever there's something that we can potentially do, a lot of people could easily start to think about the downside, but I don't really think about the downside. I'm always thinking, what if it happens? Like, what if it happens?
Optimistic.
Kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Which
And
is
I think
obviously
that
a
is
great
good or
thing.
bad
I think it's
thing.
also we have a checks and balances because when you come with that, we come with, okay, but these are some of the drawbacks and these are some of the things that might go wrong, some obstacles, things like that. So that's why we really complement each other.
Yeah.
It's important to have complementary people on the team.
I agree. And then for Kerwin, I think the creativeness and I just sometimes it's hard to put into words exactly what it looks like, but it is that thing that I don't have. Kenneth doesn't have it. It's someone that, for one, I think like to give you like examples is when we're coming down to having to position ourselves to look professional. Kerwin can speak the best, most eloquent. He can write the best. And I think that comes back from having the ability to put your thoughts into a way that it can be portrayed by someone else, which I think takes that creative aspect. And I know we don't have it, so I think that each of us has our own little role, and that's why you're the head of marketing with the podcast.
As well as being organized, you know, like you were very much way more organized than I am. So just being very organized is a very critical component because whenever I'm just blobbing, like vomiting, like ideas, you're kind of writing them or we're just kind of taking them apart and then you kind of make me think and expand kind of thing.
Can I ask you, do you think that as you like to write, as someone that has that ability, do you think that's something that you implement into our marketing?
For sure. All the time.
Yeah. So I was going to say that's an ability as well, the ability to tell a story, because I just don't, first I don't like it, but second, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
And I think you enjoy it and you found the thing that actually makes you happy. And like you just said, you don't like to get on calls, which I do. I like talking to people. You like to get behind and create a story behind.
Yeah.
That's what marketing is.
Yeah.
And it's selling, but in another way. And it's the most important form of selling, in my opinion, is before the sale is the marketing. And I think that plays one of the most key roles in any company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like that is something that you intentionally do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you highlighting that.
Yeah.
Now, so that I think it's very clear that we each have our own roles and we complement each other. Now, that's the power of having 3 people and also 3 brothers. There's, of course, I don't want to say dark side, but downsides. And we'll have to be brief because we don't want to overrun the episode. But really quick, we can go around. Like, what do you guys think, excuse me, are some of the downsides of being 3 brothers working together in a business? And we can start with approaching it from this frame of, do we ever have designated brother time? And how do we kind of distinct, like, okay, we're going to be brothers right now and be business partners right now? Does that even happen? What do you guys?
That's a great question, honestly. I mean, I would say really, you know, if I had to choose a downside, because I think everything is a great thing. But if I had to choose a downside, I would say, you know, whenever I guess you go to work, right, you can come home and that's personal time, or like you're doing other things and it's not necessarily business or work related. But with us, it's either like we never really get a break from this, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I think maybe that could be a downside. But
Yeah, like not getting away from each other. We're always together.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad, because I like to be alone sometimes and I don't get that. But that's because we live together. So do you think that's one downside?
But it would make sense. Yeah, you're right. We live together. I would also say sometimes when we're talking, and I'll be the one, I find it's me that says it. Can we talk about something else for once? Can we not talk about business? And it's just because sometimes it can get sort of one note
Repetitive.
type of thing where we want to talk about something else and we're not just one dimensional. And of course we're not, but it's also, I realize that it's such a part of who we are. And like I've obviously touched on in other videos, we're not doing this just for the business, because if it was and just for the money, like then we could do other things, because this truly is not a 9 to 5. This is a all day, every day, wake up, go to sleep, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, it's entrepreneurship. It's a lifestyle. It really is.
Yeah.
And so I think,
especially if you want to do it at the highest level.
yeah, exactly. And we do. We aspire to, we have big dreams. We have lofty goals.
It's like an Olympic, trying to win an Olympic gold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's why I think, yes, it's important to really be aware of that. But yeah, and so there are some downsides.
And I would also say, and it's hard to come up with downsides, to be honest, but it's, we'll have, like, let's say we personally, not a downside, but like when you go and do something outside of the other two, you know that other two are doing something maybe that you'd consider much more productive. You might get a sense of guilt, which I don't think is the most healthy thing.
I agree. I get that.
Yeah.
When I write or I'm working on my own things on the side, I feel guilty.
Yeah. And I don't think that's it's just in our case, right? So, like for that.
So what advice, let's to wrap it up, what advice would you give to other, not just sibling teams, but family teams or loved ones where they're working in business? One piece of advice, 30 seconds, 20 seconds.
Yeah, I just think like truly understanding that it's coming from a place of love, first and foremost.
Criticism?
You won't. Ooh, yeah, that's a great point. Criticism, I think that's something I can improve on, but being able to take criticism from coming as if it is trying to improve or better you, because that's most likely what it is trying to do.
But you're saying it's when it's business related criticism.
Anything, honestly, but
take it from the business partner. Like look at it as a business partner, not a loved one trying to insult you.
Yeah, but I think either way, it's just someone trying to like give their opinion, and don't take that. Don't be offended easily.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
it was coming from a good place.
I don't. You said advice.
Advice for anyone that's family team.
Yeah. I guess my piece of advice would be just communication. Just learn how to speak with one another, and just understand that anything that they tell you is not necessarily to harm you, but just to better you. Because when you better yourselves, you better the business.
In other words, exactly what I said.
Yeah, pretty much. I was going to say, to kind of build off of that, I think it comes down to communication, but one of our podcast guests that we had on, Eileen Prack, she mentioned that when she talks to her husband, they're partners, but when they're talking about one thing, they'll kind of be very intentional to clarify if they're wearing their business hat or they're married, like a spouse hat.
Yeah.
And she'll say, okay, right now I'm putting my business hat on. And that way it kind of sets the
tone.
Yeah, it sets the tone, and it's also kind of just like a precursor. I don't know the word for it, but
that's the agenda.
Exactly. It just kind of makes it like everyone's on the same page, you know, because a lot of times when we're talking about, for example, we're at dinner with our family, and then we start talking about business. We're supposed to have our family hat on, you know. And so I think if you're doing that, where you're at you're with your brothers and or spouse, and you're at romantic dinner, and you don't want to talk about business, and you could say, let's have our spouse hat on right now. So I think that's like a practical tip you could do, which is a really easy, quick way mantra. Or like it's a quick thing that you could use to really just clarify, set the tone, and then move forward. Awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions about anything we talked about today, let us know down in the comment section below, or reach out. We are on Donis Brothers at Instagram. Make sure you guys leave a 5-star review and a great comment if you got any value, or if you hate our content, let us know as well.
Let Kerwin know.
Let me know. DM me, Donis Kerwin on
awesome.
Instagram.
We appreciate everyone's time. Definitely, let's keep it going, and hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah, let's get out there. Let's get out there and take action, guys.
Yeah.